Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And today I'm joined by an extremely special guest, Corinn from Super Blonde Nerd. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey nerds, what's up? This is Corrin from Super Blonde Nerd. I talk about everything from board games to anime to books. So there is a lot of things on my channel. So if you like anything nerdy or art related, go check that out.
Fantastic. And with that, here, what are we doing right now? So, right now, we are going to be talking about our top 10 fall board games. We're each going to do 5 of these board games that give us the feels, that make us think of the colors, of the aromas, of the scents, of the feelings of fall, and things that we're super excited to be playing right now. As you can see, we have our apparel on, our fall colors, and we are ready to dive into this conversation. So, Corinne, anything else to add before we begin?
Let's jump into some leaves.
Let's do it. Speaking of leaves, I'm going to let you lead the conversation, and let's go ahead and start with your number 5.
Okay. My number 5. So this is a game that I'm very interested in playing, and I've looked up the rules, the dynamics of how to play. This game is called Calico. I don't know if you've ever heard of this game. It's very simple, but all it is aesthetic and coziness. You're working together or you're working on your own board, making a quilt, and you're assembling different pattern pieces, but also colors and things to work together. And the better and more cohesive your quilt is, the more things you can get, like buttons and extra swatches and all that stuff. And while you're working to make the best quilt, the better your quilt, the more cats you attract to sit on your quilt and just make it like the coziest game ever. So the more cats you have, the swatches, the buttons, all of those little things all add up to your points at the end of the game. Excuse me as my computer is starting. It's very loud. Yeah. So it's just the sweetest. I mean, what is more fall than like sitting on a quilt or being under a quilt, having your animal, whether you like cats or dogs or whatever animal that you have, and like just snuggling up and being so warm. And again, I'm a huge art person, and like seeing the different quilt patterns and the colors and working together to make something that is like aesthetically pleasing is definitely a bonus. So I just thought, I was like, this is the cutest little cozy game I've ever seen.
I think that's great. I definitely agree with you that fall is cozy times. The weather is
Hmm.
cold. It's time to enjoy soups and hanging out with your fur babies and
Yes.
enjoying. This is a great pick. I really think that this one looks great. So this is one that we have not tried yet. We
Right.
actually have the newer version of this kind of. It's
Oh,
I think it's called Cascade, or I don't remember what it's called.
okay.
But it's like this second in this series, and I'm excited to try just something from this publisher. So I'm excited to try this out. It looks like a great game, and hopefully I'll get to try a copy of it soon. So Calico, exciting.
Yes. So cute. So
Very,
cozy.
very nice. So let's go ahead and jump into my number 5. My number 5 is surprisingly so fall themed that it got an expansion that actually turned it into a fully fall game. This is going to be the board game Root. So Root is by Leader Games. It is absolutely wonderful, a game of woodland warfare where you play as these little characters, and it's your job to do your best to dominate the land. So you're doing this in a coin series style of programming your actions using cards in order to do different things around the forest, building buildings, taking out your opponents, rolling dice, and really doing your best to play your faction the best. And when I say that, that's because the factions themselves are extremely asymmetric. You're going to be having these characters that all work differently, but are combined with this great system that keeps all of this asymmetry together. And that's done in the form of cards, the movement, the ruling rules, and then the combat rules. All of that is shared. So it's easy to play this game, but it's hard to play your faction super well. And I think that is beautiful game design. It's one of my favorite things about this is the fact that the game is so simple, but it's so well done and it's so easy to actually play. So very impressed. Taught this to a new gamer the other day, and he had a blast with it. He was able to jump in, get started right away, but just was having trouble with just understanding how to be good. So I love that there's so much to explore in this system, and so much to learn, and so much to play, and so much to get back to. Now, the fallness comes from the characters themselves, the colors that are used, just the different features that appear. The map itself is covered in this fall setting, and I think that's so wonderful. You can see the leaves changing. You can see the gathering of people in this large forest. I love everything about this, and I love just the way it makes me feel. So I think Root is just absolutely wonderful for its bright colors and its bright artwork, and I think that this does a great job with really showing that fall theme. Corinne, have you had the opportunity to play this game?
Oh my goodness, yes. We actually have the two other expansions. I think there is a third one now, but we
Yes.
have the Riverfolk expansion, and we have the I can never think of what the name is, the underground one
Yep.
with the moles and the ravens.
Yes.
The COVID
COVID conspiracy.
Yes, Corvid conspiracy. Absolutely. I didn't put this one on my list. I mean, it was going to be on my list, but I was like, man, I bet he's gonna put on Root. Did I put it on my list? I'm just making sure. Okay. Yeah.
You're
This is
totally right, though. This
yeah.
had to go on my list. In particular, there's actually a Halloween scenario for this game. I don't know if you've ever played it, but if you look
No.
on BGG, and after this video is posted, I'll put it in the description,
Yeah.
there's a trick or treat scenario. There's a lot of different scenarios for the game. That's what all the extra tokens are for. And this one in particular has you use one of the vagabond pieces, and this becomes a vagrant that runs around. On your turn, you can feed it candy, give it a treat, or you can have it do a trick, and it'll basically explode. So
Oh
it
my
becomes
gosh.
this essentially this it's an arsonist. You're having it run around the forest and exploding on people, and it becomes this weaponized candy basket, and it's so funny. And I love that it is Halloween themed. It just adds even more flavor to this game, and I think that if you enjoy Root, go take a look at these scenarios. They're a blast, and Trick or Treat one I think is very, very solid.
Yeah,
So if you love it, go for it.
I've
Yep.
always loved that vagabond because he is like this little spooky vibes and the just fitting into that fall aesthetic even more. But I did not know they did a trick or treat that. We're gonna have to play that now. Like
It's super wonderful. It's also just an excuse to play more Root, and it changes the game just slightly. Now, real quick, off topic here. Well, I guess on topic, but what's your favorite faction you like to play in Root?
Ooh. I
These are
really
tough
actually
ones.
enjoy Corvid Conspiracy.
Yeah.
I like there is definitely strategy. I mean, there always a strategy with each of the factions, but
Mhm.
Corvid is really fun because you get to kind of like this, like trick or treat, like whatever ones that they happen to, whatever you have 4 different types of traps
Trap
that you
tokens, yeah.
can set for people. You can do a bomb, which gets rid of any structures and players. You can do like a bear trap that makes players not be able to leave that area. There's taking coin, and then there's one other, but it's just a really fun. There's lots of options for like messing with all the players, and again, spooky vibes is very fun. But they're not too complicated in the level of like learning how the faction works, because like I know the cats are pretty Marquis de Cat are pretty easy. They're like an easier level. But so I enjoy the Corvid Conspiracy. My husband really enjoys playing the Lizard Cult.
I
Yeah.
think that those are great picks. I think that that expansion in general, the Underworld expansion, I think it does a great job with not only introducing new good factions, so the Corvids in particular, but I think it also does a great job with just making it so you can play smaller player count games a little bit better.
Yes.
So I really like that. I really like the moles for that as well. It adds like another
Mhm.
war faction, so you can play as them versus the cats or them versus the Iries, and also these pieces are just adorable. I
They are.
love I love this expansion. It's one of my favorites. I recently just did a top 10 expansions, and this made that big list.
Nice.
So I think this is a great one. Good pick.
Mhm.
For me, my favorite faction would probably be the Irie. I love having to program your actions, and I love how fragile they can be, but how just
Yes.
insanely powerful they can be as well. So
Yeah.
it feels kind of bad when somebody looks at your board and tries to make it so that you can't complete your decree. But I also realize that's the whole point, right? Otherwise,
Mhm.
that character might become too powerful. So I like that there's that dynamic to it. So there's some positives and negatives, but overall, I think Root's fantastic. All right, Corinn, let's go ahead and move on to your number 4. I'm excited. What you got?
All right. I will do the other one that a lot of people have recommended to me, and again, not one that I have played, but I definitely want to check it out. This one also has a lot of just coziness, feels, and then I've heard very good things about the gameplay. It is called Chai. So that one, it's kind of, I don't know if it's the same as Calico, but it's another, like, you're creating tea and you're using different turns to get the right ingredients and trying to make the best tea, the most points, filling the requirements that are needed to make the best tea. And like, what is more fall than a warm cup of tea or a warm cup of coffee? But for this, we'll say tea. And chai tea. And so I've heard very good things, especially when I've talked about all the like aesthetically pleasing board games. Everyone's like, have you tried chai? Have you tried chai? So I was like, no, I have not yet. So it's definitely a game that I'm really interested in trying. And again, just this time of year, it's very cute. Like all the boards and the gameplay setup looks just adorable. Again, setting up your own little like tea shop or kitchen to make your perfect brew of tea. So I'm very excited for this game as well.
I think this is a great pick. The deluxe edition really goes above and beyond with its
Mm,
production. You have these huge cups that are actual teacups that you'll be tossing coin and your materials in. You'll actually go to the market and you'll be sliding your pieces around in kind of like a one of those slide puzzles almost. You're moving things
oh
and trying
yes,
to get
yes.
combos like a Candy Crush. So it's
Hmm.
kind of fun there. It's like you said, it's very, very cute. The aesthetic is high. For me, this one, I have played this. I have a friend that owns a copy of this. Gameplay wise, it reminds me a lot of something like Splendor or Century Spice Road.
Nice.
But I think that it's gameplay wise, I don't think it's as strong as the other two, but I think theme wise, this is the
Yeah.
strongest out of all of them. There's a lot of fun cards and different characters from different well known properties that
Mm.
appear. Particularly, there's a Uncle Iroh from Avatar The Last Airbender
Ah!
that shows up in the game, and he's drinking some jasmine tea, of
Of
course.
course.
And then we've got our character right here, as you can imagine. We have
Hmm.
another character who is enjoying his cup of tea. So everybody has their own kind of style and is reflected in the gameplay. And I
That's
think that's
so
really sweet.
cute.
So definitely for aesthetics, this one for this series, I'm actually really excited to try Chai Tea for Two. It's a kind of a two-player
Oh,
only, think Seven Wonders Duel
yeah.
expansion for this, and that sounds wonderful. It takes this idea of that management, but puts it in that head-to-head sense, and I think that sounds more up my alley. I think that's one that I
Hmm.
want to give a try, but it keeps that awesome theming and awesome just components and coziness. So I'm excited. I'm excited. Do you know anybody that has this? Are you going to be able to try it soon?
I don't know anybody who has this. I would never. I would not be surprised if my brother and sister, my sister and my brother-in-law have this, but because they have almost as big, if not the same size board game collection as we do. And so we try not to get the same game unless we are absolutely in love with it, just because it's like, we're going to see them, we're going to be able to play the game. So, but as far as I know, not right now. I don't know anybody who has Try.
Yeah.
Do
Well, I hope
you
you get to try this one soon. Yeah, this one's fantastic. I
do you
hope
have
you.
Try?
I do not have chai, so that is
Okay.
not in our library. Similar to you, we know somebody that has it, so there's no reason for us to own it. As I said, I do think that Century Spice Road and Splendor do this kind of style of thing a little bit better. But I think for the theming, if we do want to play this, actually, my wife likes this game a lot, so she'll ask for it when we're over at other people's houses.
There
So
you
there we go. So it will get played. Just I don't think we need to have it for our library.
go.
So that's number 4. Thanks so much, Corinne. Now we're gonna go ahead and jump to my number 4. This is another one that just screams fall to me, and it's more of that feeling of I am making this giant pot of stuff, and it's got that warm vibe. And this is going to be the quacks of Quedlinburg. It also gives me these Harry Potter vibes of like
Oh.
witches and sorcerers and sorcery, and just a collection of all of these things. You're harvesting and you're putting things in this giant boiling cauldron. Gives me some hocus pocus vibes. We got everything going on here. That's Quacks of Quedlinburg. You play as these doctors building these potions, and with this newest expansion, the Alchemists, you're also going to be trying to heal different people using the potions that you're creating. So I really like this idea. I love the whole aspect of, oh, what am I going to get? The push your luck is really well done. And I just am so impressed every time I play this. I'll be honest, this is one of the most lucky games you'll ever play. You can win and lose in an instant. You can have good and bad games, but I think that just the potential and the roller coaster of experience is there. It is so well done. I think that this is a wonderful experience. Now, this one in particular uses a bag building system where you're going to be pulling chips, putting them in bag, pulling them out one at a time, and doing your best to not bust. It's up to you. You can stop whenever you want, but you never want to stop because you just want to get more value, to buy more things, to put more chips in your pot so that you could make bigger, better potions. The quality upgrades that you can get for this game are insane and through the roof. BGG has these amazing pieces that you can get, and it's so satisfying to dig into a bag and just pull out all of these materials and then plot them into your cauldron. This is one that gets played a lot, all the time. It's a great family game. It's a great gamer game, but it does have that huge bit of luck, so you have to be ready for that if this is something that you're willing to give a try. But I think that the experience is absolutely wonderful for the pressure luck genre. So good. Corinn, tell me your thoughts. Go.
This is adorable. I love the cauldron-esque feeling of it. I personally love the luck of the draw. I know my husband is more, it's definitely more, he likes relying on strategy more than luck. But there is definitely something to be said about the emotional rush that comes from picking out a piece and hoping that it's exactly what you want. So this is going on my list of games I have to at least try, if not own, because this is absolutely the great combination of both like fall and spooky season, because you have that cauldron, but it's not super duper like we are witches. It's the quacks. So that's adorable. I keep saying adorable. I don't know if that's the correct term, but
I think that's appropriate for this game.
yeah, I love this. It looks so fun.
And it's a Spiel des Jahres winner as well. It won 2018. It won
Nice.
alongside Azul that same year. So it won
Very
the
nice.
Kennerspiel, so the advanced game of the year.
Was this one on your games that you've been playing recently?
It may have been. I don't think so.
Okay.
We did play this recently, though. Oh, it might have been actually, because I played this like 2 weeks ago, maybe 1 week ago.
I don't know, maybe if you mentioned it in your video, but at least
Maybe.
you've been playing it recently.
But
I
I
mean,
think
I
that
would be playing this absolutely throughout the entire month of October.
Oh yeah, this is one that gets played constantly, consistently.
So
It's
cute.
great.
Yeah.
And I think the best part of it, whenever I show this to a new person, we showed it to 2 new gamers, and they were extremely excited to dive in because of the customization. And also, if you lose in this game, you can bust, right?
Yeah.
It's not terrible. You still get to get the feeling of upgrading your bag and buying things. And then there's a catch-up mechanism that makes you feel even better. So it's really friendly to
Oh.
new players because they feel like they're always doing something and they're always improving. And I think that's a really good thing. If you're
That's
winning, you're not getting as many bonuses. If you're losing, it's okay because you're still getting to participate. The simultaneous play is wonderful. The customization is wonderful. Everybody is able to constantly, consistently upgrade their bags. It is so cool. This is just, when people play this game, they look at the different options and they get to do what they want to do. No one's telling them, and any strategy is viable. It's so cool to watch this creativity. I think that you're going to have a blast with this game. I think that this is one you need to check out. And speaking to what you said earlier about luck being, you like lucky games, I think that every game needs a small element of luck to make it just that more exciting. At least some luck or hidden information. I think that's huge. And I think that this game takes that and turns it to 11. It's insane with the amount here. But I just think it's absolutely wonderful. So that's my number 4. That's Quacks of Quedlinburg.
Fantastic. Great choice. Looks so fun. I'm definitely going to be adding that to my list.
And then we have John
Okay.
Franklin joining us really quick with a quick comment. This is my dad, actually. He says he likes
Ah,
towards the end of the game, if you're behind, you still have a fairly good chance of improving and even winning if you push your luck. And I agree with that statement because it's you get a benefit for being behind in points, and certain chips might help you out. And there are even event cards that may change that luck. You're always in the game. So I
that's
think that's
awesome.
huge, especially for newer players and people who've played a while. They always know there's a chance. Fantastic. Corinne, go ahead and tell us what's next.
So my
Our
number
number threes.
3 is parks. um, because parks you kind of experience all of the seasons, but I mean, really, you see so many beautiful renditions of the fall season. You have, I think, the element of like the woodland creatures, or the creatures that you'll see throughout the parks, just adds that element more of like whimsical fall forest. I don't know. I just associate forest with fall because I think of like the trees and the changing colors. And even like the cover is very warm and to me evokes fall. So I definitely thought that Parks is a cozy game. It's again, you get all of the seasons, but I think it definitely evokes some feeling of fall and wanting to explore different parks during that season because that's like a great time to go hiking and explore. So I think that this may not be the most fall aesthetic, definitely aesthetic, but again, it just to me evokes the feeling of fall and making me want to do outdoor fall activities
Oh, I
like
totally get
hiking.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Those saturated colors just really pop. And as you
Yeah.
said before, the artwork evokes the fall feeling. I totally agree.
Hmm.
I think this is a great pick for fall picks. Now, if you were to go hiking, I mean, which of these parks would you visit? Which one is the most fall?
Oh man, I
Are
don't
there
even know because there's like how many parks, national parks do we have? Like 60 plus? I don't know.
enough
We
to
have a
fill
lot.
a 70 card deck?
Yes. So I don't even know. I definitely definitely I want to see the redwood forest. That is something I've never been out west, so any park out west, Yellowstone, Redwood, even the one, oh, I don't know. I think it's in California, but it has the rock formations where you can walk through. It's not like a cave. I can't even think of the, the name. I'm terrible at geography, but I can't. It's not. No, that's a Joshua tree, but that's not the one with the rocks. But yeah, so anything out west for sure. But Redwood and Yellowstone are up there for sure.
I'd really like to go see the sequoias. I think those just look
Mm,
amazing. Just
hmm.
being surrounded by giant nature sounds
Yes,
really, really fun. So,
so
we're
cool.
lucky enough to have some cool parks here in Colorado. We're
Yeah.
right next to the Sand Dunes National Park, and that is
Ah,
so neat.
that's really cool.
Great time. Don't wear shoes or you'll regret it, but make sure you're wearing socks or you'll really regret it because, man,
Mm,
that sun heats up that sand. But oh,
yes.
great places. I totally agree with you. Fall is a great season to hike. It's nice and cool. You got that breeze. You can wear jackets, and when it
Hmm.
gets too cold, you can always put on more layers. Nothing wrong with that. It's a fun
Yes.
one. This is a good pick. I really like this one. Anything else you want to add?
I haven't. Have I played the expansion? I think I played the expansion, the night expansion,
With the tents.
um, with the tents. Yeah. So it's just again camping. I have some good friends who are camping this weekend. Just all of that feeling of fall. Parks is a great game if you have not played it. I feel like if you watch my channel or his channel, you should know that you should play Parks. But yeah, no, just a great game. And again, fall evoking, making me want to go out. Even if I don't go hiking in a park, I can go hiking in a corn maze.
There you go. Perfect. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Corinne, for sharing. Let's go ahead and jump to my number three. So my number three here. Oh, 1 second. My number three here is a game that a lot of people have not played, and those who
Mm.
do play it absolutely fall in love with it. It is a game that is more Thanksgiving themed than it is going to be Halloween themed. This is a game called Keyflower. So Keyflower is a Richard Breese design, and I think it is the best one that he's made. And this game in particular has you playing as a group of pilgrims. And your whole goal is to settle this new land, and you're constantly greeting people from boats. And so you bring in new people, and you're going to use these people in order to settle areas. You're going to be building buildings, using them. But the coolest thing about this game is it is a worker placement game that is entirely open, which means that you can use your workers to do things on your buildings, but you can also send them to your neighbors and do things on their buildings. So
Mm.
every single tile is always in play at all times. And so whenever you do something, you just look and you say, hey, I need this, I'll go do that. And it's such a unique mechanism because there's always something that you need to do, but with the amount of things on the board, there's 100 things that you can do at a certain time. So timing is everything. Do I prioritize using this? Do I prioritize using that? There's so many good decisions in such a small space. It is so fantastic. Oh, really quick, Corinne, to answer your question, John Franklin here coming with the answer. There are 423 national parks.
Yeah, I
Oh
knew
my
it was a
gosh.
lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. There's a lot to explore. So
there you go. You got your pick. You'll never run out of options.
exactly. Never be able to visit them all in my lifetime, I feel like, for sure.
But Keyflower here is a 10 out of 10 for me because it keeps these large decisions in a relatively small time frame. You're going to be playing this game and you're going to be constantly in that positive stress factor where you're not sure exactly what you need to be doing at every single bit of time, and every decision is tense. Now, here is where the twist. If you'll notice, all of your new pilgrims here, your keeples as they call them, they are different colors. And the way they work is on your turn, you can either put a worker onto one of these tiles and get the resources on it, or you can put a worker around one of the public tiles in the middle in order to auction for it. Now, here's where the twist comes in. The colors matter. As soon as somebody first places a worker on a space, that is now the color for that action. So if somebody wants to outbid you for the tile you're bidding on, they need to match the color and then put out more than you. And I think that's so well done because it really puts stress on you. And here is the thing. If you place a worker on a space, that locks that space to that color as well. All of a sudden, to use this space, you have to put blue people on it. And it's really fascinating choice here because you have a set of colors behind your screen and you can kind of predict what other people may have behind their screen. So you could do some really cool plays where you prevent other people from using your buildings because you need to make sure that you get those used by putting a specific color. Or alternatively, you can put a worker on somebody else's building to prevent them from using it. And that way, oh, I know they don't have any of this color. I'm going to make sure they cannot use this effect. And once again, it's all about that timing because you get to do one thing for all of these tiles and it's crazy. It's insane. Oh man, I just love that system. I think it's so well done. And then here's the biggest kicker here. You could put workers on everything, but at the very end of each round, every single worker on your tiles, you get for the next round. So if you're using your opponent's things, they get all of those resources to use next round. So it's such a cool situation where you can do anything you want, but if you do, you may be inadvertently helping everyone else. And I love that positive interaction where, yes, it can be seen as a negative thing, but it's also extremely positive. And I think that's so cool. There's so much dynamicness to this. And I just think it's so well done. It also features this wonderful end game scoring mechanic where at the start of the game, you get tiles. And then at the very last round, you'll put those tiles up for auction. And so potentially some of those scoring options, but everybody has the opportunity to build. So they could potentially outbid you for your scoring and kind of anticipate what you've decided to set up and work on. And they could potentially steal that scoring from you. And that is so cool. I love this. I love this system. Fall feeling though, definitely. You got pilgrims coming in. You've got all sorts of this wonderful fall imagery. You've got farms. You've got things that you're harvesting, you're crafting, you're building, and then you're just you're having this nice little cozy house in front of you that's going to store your meeples. I think it's lovely and wonderful, and this is one that I can play all the time. I think that this one it's fantastic.
Oh, look at all those houses! It's so cute.
It's adorable.
This makes me think so much of Carcassonne. Is this the same people who have made Carcassonne?
This is not the same people who have made Carcassonne, but I agree with you. This reminds me a lot of Carcassonne as well because you're putting the tiles down. You've got to be aware of what's matching. This one reminds me a lot of things like Isle of Skye more than I would say Carcassonne. But yes, I think it's so good. That auction mechanism, though, is where it sings.
Yeah.
It's so good. Yep. I think that this one is fantastic. Here are all the little houses that you get. They actually pop up and will hold your meeples inside. It's adorable. You get a little key flower in the back there.
I saw
Have you?
that it looked like they have some expansions.
Yes, there are
Yeah.
a couple of expansions. One is the Merchants expansion. This is going to give you contracts that you can fulfill. It is so cool. Gives you tiny little objectives, or you can turn them in for one of the resources depicted on the objectives. So they're nice multi-use actions. And then there's also one that introduces farm animals and farm breeding, which makes use of your tiles even more, giving you pastures that you can put things in. And it also increases the ability of like the movement and the upgrade actions. I think that they're both really good expansions, but I don't think they're necessary at all. But I
Sure.
do
Oh
think
yeah.
that if you play with them, I think you'll enjoy them. So the
Yeah.
Keyflower this is a 10 out of 10 game for me. I think this game is absolutely wonderful. It's so well done. It's just one that I want to play all the time. If you have a chance, I would recommend you give this one a try. Over any of the other games on this list, honestly, even over
Oh
any of them.
wow.
I think this is real good stuff.
That's great. Yeah, it looks really. Love that you incorporated Thanksgiving into this fall themed list. We got to think about Thanksgiving too. Gets very much thought over between Halloween and Christmas.
We need representation of
That's
Thanksgiving.
right. If anything, just for the food. But yeah, no, this seems very both strategic, fun. I do really enjoy the positive element while you're still, obviously it's not like a cooperative game, but it's a little cooperative, whether you're intentionally trying to help people.
Positive
I do
player
like that.
interaction is totally underrated, and I love games that
Yeah.
incorporate it well.
Yeah.
Super awesome.
That's great. Very cool. Yeah, I had never heard of that one before. So definitely, again, just I have such the list of board games that I need to try is just it's getting so long.
Doing collaborations is so dangerous because people always talk about fun board games, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I have to look at this every time we do. Anytime we do collaborations, it's always I'm looking at 2 or 3 games afterwards, and it's a little frustrating, but also very exciting.
Yes.
All right,
frustrating for your wallet.
Yep. All right, Corinn, what's your number 2?
Okay. I will say probably for this collaboration, if you probably heard, at least for the rest of these, you've heard of most of these games already. So for my number 2, it is Everdell. Again, it's just going into the forest, woodland creatures. Again, it has beautiful artwork in the fall season. And again, you're going through each season in the gameplay. So the beautiful ever tree, you see parts of it that are covered in like the orange foliage. And you're doing all of the things. You're seeing the just coziest little critters, farm critters and shopkeepers and mayors and kings and queens and just all of like the cozy little storybooks you read. It just evokes so much fall feeling for me throughout the season. I'll play it throughout the year, but it's definitely when I thought this was like one of the first games that I thought of for this collaboration. It's just like, oh, such a fall feeling game, so beautiful. Just enjoying all the artwork, all the pieces. And it's very, it makes me think too of what like squirrels and all the critters do for prepping for the winter. Like what they do in the fall is collecting all of their resources so that they can build, so that they're ready for the winter. It's just really delightful to play and definitely has the fall feeling for me.
I gotta agree with you here. I think this is a great pick. This kind of falls in that same category as Root to me, where you just have lots of different colorful creatures, and they really take the aesthetic of the forest and making you really appreciate the different environments, the leaves that are covering the ground, the passing of the seasons, the changing of the seasons. And a lot of the expansions will play into that even more with different things that occur during each season.
Right.
I really like the aesthetic of the game. I love the artwork, and I really like the mechanics of this one too. I really like the card comboing and chaining, and how once you play it a couple of times, you'll start to understand the importance of specific card combos and the rarity of cards. Ooh, what are your favorite things about this game?
Definitely the elements, the setup of the game, the 3D tree, the all of the 3D elements of the resources, even like the placement of cards or actions that you can take throughout. And they like having those special cards on the tree that you can fulfill if you have the correct combo of cards. The the little pieces of, it's like a carnival and all of those lands or spaces that you can unlock and take for yourself for points, depending on, again, what cards you have or what specifications you are meeting during the game. And just again, those elements are so nice. And I do like the deck building and tableau building, tableau setup. That there are so many options. There's a lot going on, but it's not too complicated. You can keep track of pretty nicely. Yeah, so I love everything about the game. I think that everything.
Now that you know how to play Everdell, no,
right? Yeah.
But I totally agree with you. I think this is a lot of fun. I love the evaluation of the cards here. I love just all the things that you can do with them. You can trade them for resources. You can use them for endgame scoring. And then you're always constantly on the lookout. One of my favorite mechanics in this game is the meadow system. So everybody has their own hand of cards, but there's also this large set of cards in the middle of the table. And this serves as a second hand that everyone can use. And I love that idea. I love having multiple pools of resources to take from. And I think this does a great job with that, because you have that tension similarly in like Keyflower, right? Where you have to really time your stuff and you're saying, oh man, if I don't play this card right now, this person could play it when it gets back to them. Do I risk it? Do I take some time getting resources? Will they know what I'm building? I think that's so cool. But while it's there, it's safe. So somebody has to build it in order to take it. And I think that's so cool. I love that idea.
I will say I also enjoy, and I'm not sure what the term would be, if it's just like, I love that you can take your time on this game. Everyone's doing their own pace.
Yes.
So if someone goes into the summer season and you're still in the spring season, if you still have cards to play or resources to spend, you don't have to end when someone else ends their season. So that's really nice. And you don't feel as like rushed or feel like you're behind or anything.
I think the term for that is asynchronous rounds.
Okay.
Because you're able to pass for season. And I think that's also really cool, because you can take like an early pass. That way you're able to make sure that you get spaces, or you can do it really strategically. That actually is one of the ways that you can grab meadow cards. So I think that's kind of cool, where you can, if something comes out, you might just pass right then and there to ensure that a card is yours. And I think that's really cool. I love that that is there. You see this in games like Tapestry as well, where you can end at different times. And I think that's a really neat mechanic. The one thing that I will say is it can cause a little bit of awkwardness if you finish the game like 30 minutes before everybody else does. And you're just kind of sitting there, pull out a solo game, wait for everybody else to finish. But usually everyone will end around the same time.
Yeah.
But I think this is a great pick, Corinn, and I'm glad it's on your list. I really like this game. Fantastic. Number 2, Everdell, another fantastic showing. All right, so my number 2 is going to be another Thanksgiving themed game. Oh, 2 on one list.
Oh man.
So this one is one of my favorites. A lot of these games on this list I actually got to play recently, so they're like fresh in my head. I'm super excited. And this one is by one of my favorite designers, Uwe Rosenberg. This is a game that has feasting in the title. This is Feast for Odin. Now, Feast for Odin is a huge worker placement game, his magnum opus, if you will, of these mechanics from Patchwork to Agricola, combining the best of all the worlds into one huge experience where you're able to do whatever you like, and you can really customize the gameplay as you see fit. Feast for Odin has you playing as a tribe of Vikings. You're going to be sending out your little Vikings around to do different Viking things. But ultimately, you want to grab a bunch of stuff and put it into places. You have this giant empty board that you're going to have to cram your stuff into. And then you're also going to have islands that you'll explore. That way you can cram even more stuff into them. The goal is to have the most space filled with the most stuff to get the most points. Because everybody knows that when you're a Viking, that's the whole goal, right? You're just getting stuff.
Right.
That's right. That's right. That's what we learned in history school, right?
I mean, that also fits very much Thanksgiving. The most stuff you can fit in your stomach.
Perfect. And the titular feast here is also a little thing that you got to be aware of. And one of my favorite things about this game is at the start of every round, you're just given stuff. Like, here, have 6 workers. Here, have one of every single food. Here, have all this stuff. And then it's up to you to decide what you want to do with that. Do you save it and use it for the feast? Do you sell it and get some money? Do you trade it for a sheep? What do you want to do with this stuff? You have all this stuff you can do. And that is facilitated using this giant action board. Now, this action board is my favorite part about this game, actually. I love how it's organized. The way it works is each column represents a strength of an action. So if I want to do a weak action, I do the one on the far left, costs 1 worker. But if I want to do the best action ever, it costs 4 workers and it's on the far right,
Mm.
and it just gives me ridiculous amounts of value. But it's up to you. You have a limited number of workers. But my favorite thing about this is you have a set number of workers. You never have to waste your time getting more workers or anything like that. You just get them. Similarly to Everdell, right?
Mhm.
Where you don't have to worry about that. You're worried about the spaces themselves and doing the actions you want the best way possible. And I really like that. So you're going to decide the strength of the actions you want to do. There are multiple values of the same action. So you could really do the same thing multiple times, which is kind of cool. You could pillage at like a lower level and then pillage at a higher level. You could pick whatever strategy you're feeling fit. But my favorite part about this game has to be the occupation cards. So in this game, you're going to have one starting occupation card that's going to give you some purpose or destination. But my favorite thing about this is you could just flat out ignore this occupation card. It's basically just a thing that says, hey, if you do this thing, you get a small bonus.
Mhm.
And might not be a big deal for you. You can, like I said, you can totally ignore it and just not worry about it at all. Or you can take your time and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do this game, and I'm going to use the heck out of this little occupation card. For example, we played this last time, and my friend Eric, he actually had a card that gave him like an extra sheep. It was a one-time bonus, but man, he was getting that extra sheep and it was happening. So he formed his whole start of his game to getting that extra sheep. And that was really cool because that pushed him down. Bless you. That
Thank you.
pushed him down a farming strategy that he really enjoyed. And it was kind of
Nice.
cool to see him develop that. And I think that's the coolest thing about this game is there's a lot of freedom. You could do a lot of things, and it's really up to you how you want to play the game. It
Mm.
plays great multiplayer. It plays great solo. It has a long game time, but it
Okay.
has a lot of quick actions, and I think that's where it shines. A lot of the play can be simultaneous once you finish the action phase, and that's
Mhm.
really nice. You're gathering these polyomino pieces, and you'll be placing them on your board here, and I think that is really cool as you are trying to do this efficiency puzzle. And the big thing that I tell people is when you get a piece, don't put it down right away because it doesn't matter right then and there. And I think that's
Mm.
a huge thing to let people know. Otherwise, they'll get bogged on
Yeah.
making sure that things fit. It's better if you just kind of get as much as you can and then worry about it later about where you want to put it.
Huh.
So it's a fun one. It's a little intimidating at first, but the game is easy. It's simple. As I said, played this with some new gamers, and it's a great one. I really like this experience, and the feasting here is so integral. The idea of gathering things, and you've got this wonderful forest you're exploring, and all. Yeah, this is just like that sense of freedom, and I just think it's really cool. This one
Yeah.
I really really enjoy. Have you played this game or any of Uwe's designs?
I don't believe so. This looks definitely up our alley, though, in terms of not complicated-ish, games and just a lot of components, definitely worker placement, all that stuff. That definitely looks fun, strategic. I think both my husband and I would really enjoy trying to piece our boards the best way possible. And a little Tetris playing. That's like super fun within it. Because I'm glad that you said that about like don't put your piece down immediately because it doesn't matter at the moment. Because I would absolutely do that. I would just be like, okay, where does this go?
It's a
So
common trap that people will do, and it'll
mhm.
often bog the game down because you have to keep in mind the board is going to be changing, right? It's worker placement. So somebody could take that spot that you're planning for. So don't even commit the stuff. It could be huge because then all of a sudden now you're having to replan, recalculate, and it can just be a
Mhm.
mess for everybody involved. So don't be that person. But it's definitely a table hog. There's a bunch of stuff that it's going to be using, but this giant,
Yes.
robust game is surprisingly a solid, quick system. I'm just so impressed by the way this game works and how
Yeah.
easy it is to read these huge things that are occurring. And it really surprises me. I think this one is really cool.
It definitely looks fun. And I don't mind. Do you know how long exactly the gameplay is?
The gameplay is about 45 minutes a player, I believe, is
Oh,
what the
okay.
box says. So it's
Okay.
nothing extremely huge. It
Yeah.
plays great solo. It plays great two. Two, it might be the best player count in my opinion, just because
Mm,
you're back and forth. There's a little bit of competition, but you're both able to kind of enjoy together, and I think that's fun.
that's great.
Um, this is a wonderful experience, and I think that if you enjoy any of these things separately, I think you'll enjoy it combined here.
Absolutely. Very cool. Another one to the list.
Perfect. All right, Corinne. Here it is. Number one. What is your number one fall game?
My number one fall game. What we've talked about before, the forest. What evokes the idea of fall? Photosynthesis.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, so this one, if you haven't played photosynthesis, it is a tree growing game. You're collecting sun points. You are working your way around this board, and you have a rotating sun, so you get sun in all directions. And depending on where your tree is planted, you will get a ton of sun or maybe no sun, depending on your opponent's trees. They could be overshadowing you, so you don't get those sun points. And it's just a fun strategic, I don't know, I don't think it would be worker placement, but it's definitely like where you place your trees is very important and very, excuse me, very, very important. It's the key to the game, really. And just the 3D elements of this game, you have trees in all of these colors, in the warm greens, orange, yellows, and then this almost like winter blue. So the colors and the look itself is just 100% fall. Makes you think you're in a forest. You're in a forest. The leaves are changing. And it's just, you have even on the trees like little critters that are hidden in the artwork, and that's so nice. But the game itself is super fun. I love the, I mean, look at that. Look at those pictures. You can just, it's just like you're building like a 3D forest, and it's so nice. I love this game. This is one of the earlier games we ever bought for our board game collection. And so it's just a really nice strategic game, and it's not too complicated. I think it's a quick learning game. Again, just the forest and all the little woodland creatures planting seeds, getting the sun, and having your trees grow to the tallest to then end their life cycle, so you get more sun points. It's just a really, again, this was another one that I think this was the first one I thought of with it dealing with fall, because I was like, the trees, photosynthesis, the forest. So that's my number one for me.
I think this is a great pick. I love, as you mentioned already, the little details. You can see the little foxes there and the artwork of the trees. I love that they took different types of trees, and they
Yes.
also retained like the artwork for the seeds. I think that's so fun because you're like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I used to see these all the time, and you have that instant connection.
Yes.
And I love how satisfying it is to take that big chunky tree and slap it on the board. It's so fun. I like this one. This is a good one. Good pick. So gameplay wise, what are your favorite parts from this game?
Probably just the placement and having the rotation of the sun. So you know at some point you are going to get sun points as long as you place your trees well. Because there are definitely people who can be jerks to you and just place their trees right in front of you so that you never get sun points. But as long as you're growing your trees, you will not be blocked by a tree that is smaller than you. So it's nice to have that feeling of hope that you're gonna get sun at some point because of the rotation of the sun and the angle of the sunlight. So that is, I haven't really seen games like that do something of this gameplay. So it's just a really unique element. So I really enjoy that aspect of this game.
And I totally agree. I think that it's not only unique, but it's also extremely thematic. This makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. They take a great job taking this abstract game, but putting so much theme into it. It's really well done. That was the biggest thing that blew me away, was how well it worked and how easy it became to teach because of that. Oh, it's so cool.
And even the expansion, the Moonlight expansion, adds almost like an element of spookiness because it's at night. It's at night, and you deal with the moon rather than the sun, as well as you have additional creatures or creatures that will actually impact your gameplay. And you're not creating, you have, I don't think they're eggs. What are they?
Seeds? Eggs?
Seeds? There's
Nests?
like moon, like little moon pieces. Get those right there.
Okay.
I can't think of what they're called at the moment. My brain is what. But anyway, though even those like elements is like a little bit fantastical to the element of we're getting like a little bit away from the realisticness because of these like eggs, these these moon things, but
Oh
again,
my gosh.
the little critters are so fun to add. So again, it's like it's a nice element to the game that still fits in with the fall theme, other than the moon egg things that I can't think of that.
So I've never played this expansion. What does it add besides the cute little critters and the moon eggs?
It again, it's like a different gameplay and a way of adding like bonuses.
Okay.
So instead of absorbing just sunlight, you're absorbing moonlight and being
Oh,
able
okay.
to use, depending on what creature you want to use, they add like a specific bonus
Gotcha.
or specific ability throughout the game.
How fun is this?
Hmm.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I think this is a great pick for number one.
Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. And then we have a comment here from Ron. Enjoying the list, explaining well. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining us this morning,
you.
Ron.
I hope I explained well. I feel like most of the time I'm just tripping over my words. So thank
I
you.
think you're doing a great job.
Thank
These games are awesome. And you're doing a great job of presenting them. So super
you.
cool. Super excited. This is awesome. Great number one. And as you said, I think this is a worthy number one for your list. Great. All right. So we'll go ahead and wrap this list up with my number one. And this is the first game that I thought of. So whenever I hear this, and it's actually by the same designer of the last game that we talked about.
Okay.
But this one really, I think, goes a little bit further into the theme. It reminds me of just the season as a whole, the harvest, bringing things in, because that's what it's all about. This is the game Caverna. So Caverna has you playing as farmers. And in the base game, you're playing as these cave farmers that are dwarves. And it's your whole job to build up your little settlement. You're getting all of these foods and you're trying to do your best to build dwellings that are going to give you really unique abilities and powers and ways to score at the end of the game. But ultimately, your whole goal is to either develop your mine itself or develop your farm area with farm animals and plants and crops. And this really reminds me of just like, what am I doing today? Oh, I'm working on the farm. I'm bringing stuff. And there's actual pumpkin meeples in the game that you'll be getting as resources, little grain buckets. You can go as your heart decides. You can decide, hey, to this time, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up a cider factory. I'm going to be creating stew this time. It's wonderful. It's so beautiful, but it's also tight and compact. And it has a great progression of the game as a whole. As you play, it's a worker placement game. You start with 2 dudes and you start with 12 actions on the board. Based on the player count, it might change. But the big thing is you put a dude on a space, do the action, and that's it. And then at the end of every round, you're going to reveal a new card that is a new action for the next phase. And so each round, the board is getting bigger, the options are getting bigger. And I think that's so well done because you're not front loading all these actions at first. You're getting them, you're trickling them in. So by the end of the game, when there's a million action spots, you know what they all are. It's something that you've grown familiar with. You know which ones are important based on the style that you've been playing. And just like many games with workers, you're going to be adding more to your people. And so you'll be able to use multiple spaces. And I think that's really cool. I really like how this works. Now, my favorite thing about this and the thing that really makes it folly to me is the harvesting. I love that you're constantly going to be planting things and pulling them out and using them in creative ways. You're constantly feasting because this is a game where you do have to feed your people as you play. And then you're also able to use those goods to make fun things. So there's all of these building tiles, and when it's your turn, you have access to all of them, but they are first come, first serve. So if first person gets it, it's yours. You put it into your little cave, and you can prioritize getting these tiles for special abilities and bonuses, or you can prioritize dwellings to build more dwarves and more people. So there's really cool because you're not forced to ever have more kids in this game. It's good because they're worth extra points, they give you extra actions, but is the time that you're getting from those better than the time that you're getting from these other bonuses? And I think this does a great job with the adventure system. So this has a really cool feature where you can actually give weapons to your dwarves, and they'll be going around, and after they're finished with their task, if there's an adventure icon, they get bonuses for going on these adventures. And if you have a low number of dwarves, they're going to be able to go on adventures quicker, more fast, and they're able to actually benefit from these spaces, and you can do even more things with them. And I think that's so neat. And if you read the book, there is a little explanation as to what their adventure is, and I think that's so cute. Like, you could find a friend on the road and you bring back a dog. You could find a bushel of, you find a tree that was in the way and you bring back a bunch of sticks for your family. family. It gets really awkward when you find like a dwelling and you bring back home a couch, but I think it's pretty hilarious that you can find stuff like that. And the book explains what happens in each of these
Oh
scenarios.
my gosh, that's hilarious.
It's hilarious. And so I love that adventure mechanic. I think it does a great job, and it makes it so that you have lots of different viable paths with, the size of your worker load. It's so neat. It's so cool. It's so well done. But the cherry on top for this game is the expansion. The expansion is what's called the Forgotten Folk. It actually repurposes the artwork from another game called Iron Dragon, and it introduces factions for this game. So not only are you playing as dwarves, but now you can play as completely new fantasy characters that have their own positives and negatives. You may be a mountain dwarf and you never go outside. You're not supposed to even touch the farm. You may be an elf and you never want to be in the cave. You may be a human, and your whole thing is that you do a little bit of both, but you're not particularly good at either. So it's really fun, right? Classic D&D stuff, right? But I think it's so fun that there's this big change. And the coolest thing with the Forgotten Folk Companion outside of the abilities is when you play with these new characters, you actually are going to be swapping some of the buildings. And so you're no longer using these set buildings. You're using brand new ones, and any player can use them. So based on the combination of characters, you have lots of new interesting combos and things that can exist. And I think that's so great for a game that's already this robust and this interesting.
Yeah.
I am so excited whenever this one comes out. It's one that I really enjoy. It plays all the way up to 7 players, which is kind of insane.
Nice.
I've played it twice with 7 players, and surprisingly not awful, because the turns are pretty quick. You go to a space, you do the thing, and the way that they solve this problem is they introduce way more worker spots. So generally, when it gets to your turn, you'll be able to do something you want to do. They also introduce more like mimic spaces, where if somebody's using a space you want, you can go there and use it. But I really like this style of game. I like the way it grows. I like the competition for the tiles, and it's just satisfying to build up your stuff, to go harvesting. This is very relaxing and chill, and I love the adventures and stories that it tells. And this is when I hear fall, I just want to sit up with some cider and pull out a copy of Caverna and just enjoy. Great game. My number 1. Have you played? Have you heard? What do you know about this? What do you know about this one?
I know nothing about this, but all I was thinking is like this is the board game version of like Animal Crossing or any of those like Farmville, all of those harvesting, collecting, making your house, like all of those things, which is just very fun. I love those games. Stardew Valley, that was the other one. Yeah, so this is great. I love this type of gameplay of like collecting resources, using your workers to their advantage. You get all these different options for the ability to do certain things better than other people. And I definitely would think I would want the expansion just for the D&D lover in me of just having like the different races and character traits and all that stuff, which is just adds even more to the world building as well as the gameplay. So that's, again, on the list. Mackenzie, you're killing me.
I'm sorry. This is a fantastic one.
Yeah.
I do think that it is definitely worth your time.
Yeah.
It's been out for years, and it is still loved. It's still well rated. I think it's still in the top 20, top 30 of BGG.
Nice.
It's great. This is one of the first ones that we started to jump into after Terra Mystica, and it's one that we really enjoy. I really like this one. I think it's absolutely wonderful, and it has that fantasy theming. So if you're looking for something like Halloween Towny, this might also fill that category, which is fun. But yeah, fantastic game. That is Caverna, and those are our lists. Those are our top 5 fall board games. Now, before we finish, Corinn, anything else you want to add? Any honorable mentions that nearly made your list?
I mean, Root was on there. You got Root. Basically all of my aesthetic games, I feel like, definitely hit those marks. Yeah, Root was one. I think Root was my only honorable mention. I guess the only other ones would be like spooky games, but those aren't necessarily. I mean, they fit fall, but that's definitely more just towards the Halloween aspect of fall. So I didn't want to put those on there.
And if you're looking for those spooky games, over on Corinn's channel, she just did a video all about spooky games. So go check that out. She's got some great picks, great titles, and she explains really well why she enjoys those. And you may too. Now, for me, for some honorable mentions here, I did have one that I wanted to mention that's on its way. It's going to be delivered soon. We're told that it's on a boat. I don't know where it is, but most of these, it's a Kickstarter game. So most of the Kickstarter games, I back it and forget it.
Kickstarter.
I know it's coming.
Yeah.
But this one in particular is called Three Sisters. And this game is by the same designers of Fleet the Dice game, which I think is an amazing roll and write style game. And this one does that, but with farming. So this one has you playing as farmers, and it's all about squash and pumpkins. It's about that tale of the three sisters. So the squash, pumpkin, and maize. And I think that's so fun that you have all of these things coming together for this great little game. So that's one that I wanted to mention. I have not played it though, obviously, because it has not delivered. But this is one that I wanted to mention. And then another game that is also coming from Kickstarter that really gives me fall vibes. And this is in particular because of the series Over the Garden Wall. It's a fantastic fall show that I think you should experience. You should watch. My wife and I just did our rewatch of this yesterday. It's a yearly thing. Our friends introduced it to us, and we just want to share the love as well. So I'm pushing it out there. Go watch Over the Garden Wall. But I want to make sure that you know of this game as well. This is called Townsfolk Tussle, and it uses this world of a kind of, think Cuphead or Over the Garden Wall or Disney, this classic artwork, and it has you playing a boss battling style game. The artwork is very reminiscent of something like this, where you're in the woods, you're dealing with these crazy vagrants that are going to be going around. Fantastic artwork all around, and it takes this idea of this giant boss battling game, which usually has these grotesque miniatures, think Kingdom Death Monsters, but makes it so you're fighting cartoon characters. And I think this is such a great aesthetic, great imagery. I love the theming of this, and this is one that I cannot wait to get my hands on, and I cannot wait to play. Just the artwork is everywhere, and they did one of the coolest things ever with the stretch goals in this game, where they said flat out, hey, the game's done, we're not adding gameplay, but each stretch goal you hit, we're adding art to a card. And I love that. I think that is the best thing that could have been done with fights. So I love this.
That's great. Yeah, this is very Cuphead, scary, spooky skeletons artwork. This is very cool. Yes, Over the Garden Wall streaming on Hulu.
No way, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, but you have to obviously have Hulu, which we don't. So I'm trying to convince my husband to get it so that we can watch it.
This is one.
Own it, but
this is one that we ended up buying on Apple, and it's just one that we have. So every year when we go back to it,
and it's like only 10 or 12 episodes, so you can binge it or just take a week and watch it. It really won't take long. Each episode's like 20 minutes.
And there is some gold in those episodes. It's quotable. The music is amazing. It is fall. Get some pumpkin pie, some cookies, and some cider, some caramel apples, and just enjoy. It makes for a great evening. Something that I love to do.
Deeper than you think.
This
not
is
just a cartoon show.
I agree. It's fantastic.
Very cool. Well, I love those honorable mentions. Those look super fun.
I'm excited. I cannot wait until they get here. Once again, Kickstarter, so who knows when they'll actually be here. Well, we just had one arrive, a Kickstarter that's been like 3 years in the making, so who knows when it'll be here, but hopefully it'll be good when it does. So anything else you want to add before we finish off, Corinn?
I will give an honorable mention for like a winter game.
Okay, exciting.
Frosthaven.
Awesome.
Whenever it comes out. So Gloomhaven and Jaws of the Lion, which a lot of people have been able to kind of sink their teeth into the Gloomhaven world. It's basically D&D in a board game, in more of a board game style, which I think really helps people get into the world. And you have so many different types of characters that you can choose from. And as well as the very fun thing of Gloomhaven is there are unlockable secrets, characters, scenarios. Same thing. So Frosthaven is the next version of Gloomhaven, basically. A whole other world, a whole other scenarios and creatures and gameplay. And it's going to be amazing. Their artwork is so good. The story is immersive. And again, you just have so many fun different dynamics, monsters, scenarios, and depending on how many people you have in your campaign, will help you defeat these scenarios and just unlock so much of this world. So very excited. This was I believe Gloomhaven originally started on Kickstarter. So this was the next iteration of that. And it was definitely fully funded, all that stuff. But because of COVID and production and everything, it's been super delayed a bunch of times, but we're very excited for it. It's supposed to, I think, come now at the beginning of 2022. You know, we're just waiting. We're just waiting, but super excited for it. It's going to be a great, super fun game. Some darkness, all that stuff. So winter, but it's definitely winter-esque. So
winter is coming. It is coming in the form of Frosthaven. This is actually the #1 funded board game project on Kickstarter right now, recently beating out Kingdom Death. So this is one that we are also very excited for. We finished Gloomhaven twice already, and this is one that we're just eagerly waiting in anticipation. So the new characters look very interesting right from the get-go. The Blink Blade looks probably like my favorite character right off the bat. He's a time manipulator. You have like a slow mode and a fast mode. When you play the cards, you can pick and choose. I think that's amazing. So super excited to try this one. But I love that this also incorporates settlement building. So instead of just getting items and gold while you're out, you're getting resources. You can use those to build up a settlement while you defend for the harsh winter. And the event deck changes based on the season. Oh, there's just so many cool things, so many little additions to a great system. I'm excited. I think this is a great pick for a winter game.
Again, they're bringing it back to the fall of like collecting and harvesting and storing up for winter.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Corinn, for joining us today. Please let all our viewers know where they can find you.
You can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Super Blonde with an E Nerd. So, and all one word, Super Blonde Nerd. Again, I talk about anything from art to any aspect on the nerd spectrum of D&D, books, games, art, comic books. So and board games, of course. So there's tons of fun on my channel. We are just a bunch of nerdy people enjoying all of the fandoms. You are welcome, whether you are a Trekkie or Star Wars fan. It doesn't matter. It's just sharing in the love of nerdy things. So
before this stream, Corinn and I were talking Star Wars Visions and super excited to share that, but just extremely happy to have Corinn on. Awesome YouTuber, great influence, great attitude. I love your perspective on games. And I love that we had no crossovers. We do have different tastes. I think that's so cool. But everybody who's in the stream right now, thank you so much for watching. John and Ron, thank you for being here. And thank you. Have a great weekend yourself. Thank you for joining us this morning and for being here. Super excited that you were here and able to share these great games with us. But that's everything for today. This has been Corinn and I. Thank you so much. Once again, Mackenzie from SideGame LLC. Thank you so much for being here this morning. And SideGame Strong, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you. See ya.
Bye.